Hey guys, welcome to the Masters of Marketing. This is Ross. We're bringing you an experienced marketer every day so you can learn the marketing tactics they use to stay ahead of the wave. Masters of Marketing isn't Ask Me Anything, so feel free to ask questions at any time of the presenter, whether it's a clarification or a side tangent. If it makes more sense to you, you can also ask your question in the notes on Zoom or Facebook chat and include your name, and we'll prompt you to ask the question at the next transition. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with a 20-year veteran, an experienced creative strategist, and currently the global creative director of Teads Studio, a platform and team of designers and engineers and creative strategists who help brands optimize their assets. Let's give a warm welcome to Coca. Coca, it's great to have you.
Hey, thank you.
So quickly, before we hop into your presentation, high level for viewers, what knowledge can they expect to walk away with in the next half hour?
Oh, I think there's this whole extraordinary situation that we are going through is putting a lot of pressure on brands in general. So marketers, agencies, the whole ecosystem is kind of searching for the right answers, right? So I just want to share a couple of advice that we share with our clients. Considering these sensitive moments, also I'll give like a very quick overview of what is Teads in terms of platforms, so just people to understand what Teads Studio is. Teads Studio is a consultancy, a creative strategy approach within an ad tech, within a platform, a media platform. So I will spend like less than 5 minutes talking about the platform so that people understand what is the context, because basically what we do at Teads Studio, we help advertisers to optimize their contents to our environment. So it's a similar approach as the creative shop from Facebook, Zoo from Google. It's all those teams that were built within tech platforms that help advise clients on how to optimize content for those environments. And I think one of the big challenge of the industry, of course, is being able to optimize content for a mobile screen, because most of the time we have those old habits of creating video advertising that is more linear, that has a structure of storytelling that is more adapted to TV than mobile. So it's kind of our approach.
Gotcha. So we're going to learn about your studio, your background, the strategy you're taking for mobile. We're also going to learn about the strategies you're telling your clients to take during this time so they can take advantage of marketing. So we have all that to look forward to. Another quick question. You put in your bio you speak 4 languages. This is a side tangent, but what is the easiest language that you find you can market in?
The easiest language you what? Sorry?
That you can market in. Is it easier to market in English or French or?
Oh, I would say it's still Portuguese for me personally, because I lived 24 years in Brazil and I did like most of my professional life in advertising in Brazil. So for me, the most natural language would be Portuguese. Then I would put probably English, then French, and then Spanish, in the order of what I'm more comfortable with.
Gotcha. It's interesting to see how communication changes throughout languages, and the more you learn, the more you become comfortable with. Without further ado, I'm going to give you the floor to do your presentation. So the floor is yours.
Okay. I'm going to need to share my screen. I think you're sharing yours.
You can override that just at the bottom of the screen by hitting share screen.
Okay. I thought that I couldn't. Okay. Sorry. Great. So like I was exactly introducing today, the intent of this presentation is to give advice on how brands can adapt to this exceptional time of work from home, and also being sensitive with the audience based on what we are currently living, right? It's a lot of sensitivity. It's a critical moment for the society. So as a brand, the most natural reflex would be to go dark, you know. On the other hand, I really believe that brands can help. Uh, I see a lot of examples of brands who are literally creating a movement and acting, and I totally agree that it makes sense. But I still believe that advertising has a role to change the mindset of people. And for example, we have a couple of countries in which governments are sending let's say, not clear message about what the right behavior to follow right now. That is social distancing, and advertising and brand can communicate and help to convince people to engage in the right behavior. So the structure of the presentation, as I was telling you, Ross. Well, first, yeah, it's a quick slide to present me. I was born in Madagascar. I lived 24 years in Brazil, and Brazil is a unique market in the world because it's probably the only market in the world where, when you have an agency and you take care of an account, of a brand, you need to under the same roof with the same team handle the paid media strategy and the content strategy at the same time. So it's kind of weird, but on the other hand, it creates a huge generation of advertising people, professionals, who are more holistic. You know, they have an approach that is more natural toward strategizing as a whole, the brand, and understanding that channel planning audience can be as valuable as the idea, and maybe looking at the audience can drive an insight, and it's a more holistic approach. So
can I interrupt there?
Yeah.
Why is that? Is that specific because of the language you're using? And whether or not they have to, would you recommend that other studios do the same thing?
You mean in Brazil, why the market has this dynamic?
Yeah, why does the same team have to cover paid and creative?
Yeah, so it's funny because I don't want to go too much in details, but there's a big media company in Brazil that had like the monopoly of open TV forever, and I think it wasn't exactly for the right reason, but they wanted to somehow protect their hegemony, their monopoly, so that they would incentivize agencies who buy space on their programming. And by doing that, by creating this regulation that you don't have companies that just do media strategy, and you don't have creative agency on the other hand, it's just one shop, they kind of concentrated the market, and it was easier for them. So it's not the right reason, okay, to be really clear. It's shady. It's something that I'm not proud of, and it's impacted negatively the market for a long time. This practice in the 70s in France was forbidden. It was a law, actually. You need to split the work on the creative and the media. That being said, it created a huge generation of advertising people who have more comfort. They are more easy to understand that media working with creative makes sense, you know. And I think right now, when you look at the industry, everyone would agree that if a company build an in-house agency, it makes totally sense that the media team and the content team work together. So that's what I mean by that.
Gotcha. So it started out of something that was kind of shady, but it created this amazing natural experiment that kind of went against basic capitalism. And from that, you found an outcome, which was this kind of works in some scenarios better than typically what people would do.
Yeah, totally. And I would tell you, like, the market is going this direction, actually. Even if there are different shops, different companies, like a media agency working with a creative agency, what the client wants, he wants those two teams to work together, because that makes sense. It's much more efficient, it's faster, it's smarter. So there's no discussion about that.
Nice.
I want to go through the Teads slide very quickly and go into the content. But so Teads is the global media platform. Why? Because we have, in the last 9 years, we unify under one point of entry all the premium publishers in the world. So imagine that in the US, for example, we have 85% of reach of the internet population, so roughly 220 million unique users per month. So it's a massive scale. But also the content in which the advertising appear is not fake news. It's not something that is risky for the brand. It's articles that you can detect what is the type of content. And if the content is something about Trump or COVID-19, and eventually it's about COVID-19, but it's about death of patient of COVID-19, a lot of brands don't want to be in this context, right? So we can negative this type of context. On the other hand, there's an article that is about COVID-19, but about the beautiful things that are happening, about the healthcare teams that are unifying, and the population, and all the good examples that we are seeing. Those type of content makes totally sense for a brand to be in. And let's remember that when marketers decide to protect real journalism, we are protecting democracy, because real journalism is basically allowing us to put a light on stuff that if there was no journalist, you wouldn't have the light on. It's kind of a North Star, right? So, and of course, I'm talking about this, but you can see that there's many examples. We work with Vice, Disney, Condé Nast, a lot of different type of content that cover all the subjects that you can imagine, from gastronomy, travel, finance. So that's why we have this level of reach. Just for you to visualize what we do. So we have an article, and when you engage in this article, suddenly you're going to have a piece of advertising that can be a landscape, square units. In this case, I've chosen this ad that I love. It's campaign from MasterCard, because they realized that binary people were not comfortable about their credit card, because they came with their real name, but it's not their real identity. So they create this project to allow those people to receive a credit card that has their name. So typically, this type of content, you need to have a minimum of time, of in-view time, to understand the story, to get to it. And because you are in a slow scroll environment, because you're reading the article, we are able to deliver an 11.6 second in-view time in average. And we are also able to guarantee completed view. When we compare to the in-view time, the average in-view time in the news feed, it's extremely low. So it's a big challenge for marketers, but the reality, it's a challenge of those platforms, not the marketers. And for example, this particular unit that I'm showing, we called it InRead Social. So it allows us to repurpose a content that is exactly the same that is running on social media. We run it within our platform, and we can see an efficiency that is 2 to 3 times cost per completed view efficient than in social media. So I gave you like the 10,000 feet Teads value proposition, and now I want to jump into the content. You have any question here, Ross? No?
I guess my one question is, do you match people on the content the same way that they match people, say, on YouTube? And how does someone apply to get their content in? Like, how difficult is it to do Teads versus advertise with the same video on YouTube?
Oh, so it's two distinct and relevant questions. The first one, we have been working. So the first approach of marketer, when they look at our environment, the first thing they think, oh, let's create a contextual targeting, which is super relevant nowadays, because we know that cookies are kind of dying in the industry, and it's going to put in jeopardy the whole targeting industry, because it's based on cookie. So contextual targeting is it's something that is much more relevant. But the first reflex of an advertiser is saying, okay, so in your environment, when the context of the article is XYZ, I want to personalize my content based on the context of the article. This is a very niche strategy. it's not scalable. So what we have done, we've invested in AI, prediction AI, we've invested in data, and we have created something that is not like it's privacy GDPR compliant, but based on the device that is accessing the article, we know that Ross over-index in content related to politics, gadgets, technology, and advertising, for example. And we can go even, more detailed. So it's about advertising, but advertising connected to technology. And there is a semantic way to go a little bit deeper. So if you are reading an article about Washington Post that is not about advertising, that is not about technology, but we know that you over-index, so your frequency of reading articles about this subject is high. That means that you are interested in that. And the interest is a very good proxy for intent, right? And intent is basically what is critical in advertising. So our approach to contextual targeting is broader now. We use what we call Teads interest graph. That is exactly the measurement of how a device is, how can I say, over-indexing in certain type of content. I hope the answer was clear.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's kind of like retargeting based on interest across that 80% coverage of all those journals that you have, so that, you know, over time you build up a profile on this person, and independent of what they're reading right now, you kind of know their identity.
Yeah, and again, it's a profile, it's not a person, it's like totally compliant in terms of privacy, but yes, it's exactly that. Your second question about the how you can advertise in the platform, if it's YouTube or if it's Facebook compared to Teads. Teads is a business-to-business platform. So it means that you as an individual, you can't access the platform and advertise in our environment. It's basically, our platform is accessed by media agencies and advertisers, basically, but mostly media agencies that do their buying, that can be via their DSP, via programmatic, or can be managed service, so direct buy, and we have a team that's going to handle your campaign, or through Teads Ad Manager, that is our self-buying interface. And on TAM, what is interesting on Teads Ad Manager is that we allow brands to buy on a different currency. Right now, the currency in programmatic, it's CPM, cost per 1,000 impression, right? CPM is not very valuable because sometimes the impression of your ad is gonna appear for 1 second, or even maybe it's not gonna be even seen by a human being. It's gonna be a bot, right? So what we allow our clients to do when they buy through Teads Ad Manager is buying on an outcome, a guaranteed outcome. So imagine that you have a 15-second ad, which is the length that we advise clients to do video advertising in mobile. You can buy a guaranteed 15-second completed view. Why are we able to do that? Because our prediction AI, and because we are in an environment that people are reading an article. So the scroll is much slower. We have a lot of, we know exactly, we can predict when a certain device is accessing a publisher page. We can predict very close to 100% or 95% what's going to be the behavior of this device. So the speed of the scroll, how much time the ad slot will be in screen. We can even predict if the user will click on the ad or not, because we are handling a huge amount of data of events. We are able to really predict those things, and we are able to deliver this type of buying mode. Sorry, I'm very passionate about Teads, so that's why I talk. Sorry if I'm talking a lot about it, but no, I'm so proud to work to a company that defend real journalism. That's even though I've got this creative role in the company, I'm very passionate about our platform.
It's cool. It's cool. Like, I'm the same way, where, you know, it sounds like you have an agency that helps people. We have an agency. And whenever you can build a tool that helps your agency and augments your, you know, how you help your customers, it's really awesome to see how one person's work becomes 10 people's work, because you build a platform like the platform you're describing. which lets you get some insights that nobody else has. So
Yeah,
thank you. That was a great description.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So now I want to jump into the content. The first things is about creativity. So creativity, it's funny because when we talk about digital, most of the time people fall into those acronyms, right? CPM, DSP, DMP. It's very complex. It looks like an engineering thing, right? Actually, we have proof that to drive efficiency in digital media, you can do whatever you want in terms of your media strategy. 66% of the efficiency of your strategy is directly related to the quality of your content. 66%. We are talking efficiency means ROI, return on investment. And when I say quality of the content, I'm not saying multi-million dollars production. I'm just saying taking into account the context of the user. And the context of the user is a small screen, is a cell phone. So you need to adapt to that, right? So I'm going to start by the first thing. That's the type of advice and recommendation that we share with clients about this unique and extraordinary context that we are in. Is first, don't avoid the subject. You know, it's like it's in our face every day. That's not something that you can avoid. If you are communicating, it's impossible to avoid. The second thing is being candid about it, being honest, not trying to be another brand or incorporate a new personality. And also being very mindful of the tone of the message, because there are folks out there, we know that lost their dear, you know, like their family. It's a really, really, really difficult time, and people also are being laid off. It's a tragedy, right? So we need to be aware of that. And the third advice is also when we see, and we came to those type of situation, and I'll show many examples in this presentation. You know, there are visual in your advertising, and it's normal because the world 8 weeks ago, the world was normal. You know, we were not confined at home and stuff like that. You have scenes in your ads that might offend or hurt people because it looked like a world that is not the reality anymore. But it's possible to optimize that. It's possible to improve that and make it digestible. So before I jump into other advice and stuff that we are doing at Teads to help clients, and there's several use cases that I'm describing here: adapting your video or your static content to fit the current context, adapting your current video related to the context and adapt it for mobile. So you have campaign like marketers that are already delivering ads that are connected to COVID-19 context. But the problem is that maybe they are not optimized for mobile. So that's where Teads Studio can help as well. Out of home right now doesn't make sense anymore. We are not in the street anymore. You can repurpose your campaign and your creative asset for mobile. Repurpose your social media asset also in a quality environment like ours. And also a couple of e-commerce focused creatives. But before I do that, I want to share two examples that I think will be very inspiring for all the audience that is watching us, that come from Brazil. But I'm a big fan of the craft and the creativity of my Brazilian friends. That's not a coincidence. But I want to show you two examples. One is a campaign from Wyden and Kennedy, São Paulo in Brazil. This is the first frame of the video ad. I'm going to run it. It's in Portuguese, but I put here the basic description, the synopsis of the campaign. So Lacta is a Brazilian chocolate and confectionery maker. Okay, we are in the middle of probably 50% right now. Easter is 50% of the revenue of a brand that does chocolate in Brazil. So the story is the grandma that is selling her grandson, and it's a baby, that's her new grandson, in a very poetic way that she wishes to be with him during Easter, but explain why it won't be possible. And the voice, the sound that you're gonna hear, actually what I'm gonna do is removing my, you can hear the sound through my computer. You're gonna notice that the voice of the grandma is going through a computer. It's the reality that we're living. We are connecting through computers right now with Zoom and stuff like that. And the creative concept is cada na sua toca. And it's very difficult to translate that. Toca means in Portuguese, it's the house of the rabbit, okay? And it means so each one of us in his own rabbit home, more or less. I'm gonna run the video, even though all the caption and the sound is in Portuguese. I really want you to feel the emotion, the craft, and that's what I believe in. You know, it's something that it makes a brand can have an important role in the time that we are living in.
Meu neto, esperei muito para te mostrar o mundo, mas neste momento o mundo pede para que eu espere pouquinho mais. Justo agora que a Páscoa está aí. A sua primeira, a nossa primeira. Estou aqui na minha toca, doida para ir na tua. Pegar no colo, fazer careta, bilu-bilu. Sei que o certo agora é estar distante, mas me sinto próxima a cada foto, a cada instante. Ainda bem que isso passa e que a cada dia a gente dá um passo. Logo estaremos juntos e sua risadinha será minha trilha, meu compasso. Fica bem. Lacta, cada pedacinho aproxima, mesmo estando cada na sua toca.
Sorry, I want you to pause to the last frame, that is the concept. But Ross, tell me, you know, even though it's not in your language and you didn't understand exactly the poesy of the text, you felt the emotion, right?
For sure. I mean, it's in grandma's voice. And then also I felt emotion the first time I saw that cover image. It was just like separate because like I can't go visit my own grandparents, and I've had this same conversation with them. Like I'd come, but it's better if I don't.
And you know, what you just told me, for me, is the summary of what advertising is. Advertising is about emotion. Yes, we can sometimes do an advertising piece that is extremely functional. I don't think that functional advertising bring amazing results for a brand. I don't think so. I think advertising is significantly an activity that is about emotion. And because you're creating a level of emotion, you're creating loyalty, you're creating purchase intent. And I really believe that brands that are able to work with amazing agencies and amazing creatives like White & Kennedy in Brazil and other amazing creative all over the world, instead of going dark, they should do exactly the opposite. Because, you know, by communicating right now, and that's a truth for all the different crises in the past, all the brands that stepped up and communicated after the crisis, they were much stronger. So that would be the first case that I wanted to share with you. And the second one, I already translated in English. I love that. The social media team at Netflix Brazil is so brilliant. They did that. They posted tweets and they said, oh, the most important thing right now is to take care of yourself. And if you can, stay at home. And if you think you've seen everything that is available, there are really cool things on other platforms for you to watch. And then they put following its thread. If you like Black Mirror, you will probably like Years and Years on HBO Brazil. Or if you prefer Orange is the New Black, you might like Fleabag on Prime Video Brazil. What they created with that is that they engage and they kind of chat with all the other platforms that were saying, oh yeah, but I've got this thing on my platform. So it was a huge commotion, a lot of retweets, and that's what is advertising about. Advertising is about having a strong point of view. It's surprising the consumer, is transmitting emotion, right? So I think it was like two cases that I really wanted to share with all of you, to show that, yes, it's a sensitive moment, but let's not be cowards. Let's be the opposite. Let's help. Let's create bonds, create emotion, and help in this situation. And let's remember that specifically in Brazil, we have a president that is not good right now. It's like he's basically telling the population that they should come back to work. He did gathering of people, kind of similar to Donald Trump, actually. So it's a very tricky situation. So I believe that Netflix Brazil, when they are doing that, they are doing their role to help the population, because as Lacta and Netflix, yes, social distancing will save life. It's important. It's our main objective, right? Okay, so then I want to jump into a couple of other examples. So this spot from Budweiser was created specifically for the environment we are living in, so the social distance and the healthcare amazing work. So here what we have done, because the environment in mobile most of the time is sound off, we incorporate a series of elements so that you can understand the spots without sound. So we put the branding, the concept of the campaign, and this caption for you to understand what is the advertising about. This was done proactively. We didn't run it. I did it proactively with my team, send it to Budweiser. I don't even have authorization to share that. Probably my friends at ABI, they might reprehend me, but I'm sharing anyway because I think it's an amazing spot. Actually, it's an amazing thing that was created in a short amount of time. It's beautiful, it's smart because it's done with the pictures, and it's super insightful. Another example is we work a lot with Microsoft, and we were running an ad that was basically about Microsoft Teams, so the equivalent of Zoom. And we work with them to adapt their creative and communicate to the audience that now the platform will be for free. Because Microsoft took this decision. So it's kind of a quick tweak on the creative, so that with this exact same TV spots, you are able to communicate something that is more relevant right now.
So Coca, we've had some different presenters on that have had some kind of contrary opinions in terms of paid ads recently. One of the things I was interested in was these spots that you're doing. Are you seeing a downward price? Are people pulling out from advertisement, or are people doubling down on advertisement right now from your angle?
I would tell you that it depends on, of course, if you look at travel and luxury, there's a natural, there's more impact. Like right now, I was about to show a Mazda ad. Auto is not decreasing investment on the. It's quite the opposite, because even though they are closing factories, they have stock. They need to sell the cars, and they need to communicate it. So I think there's not an easy answer about it. For me, in terms of content, the most important thing is, if you need to sell your Mazda right now because it's important, what you need to take into consideration, if there are scenes that doesn't make sense at all right now, because being in a restaurant, it's not the reality. Maybe you can adapt the content, remove those scenes, and that's exactly what agencies and advertisers are doing. Because yeah, actually right now, maybe the best time to buy a car if you can, because the conditions are great, and advertising is about communicating those things. So no, as I told you when I was introducing, I think we have all a role, and we need to make the economy spinning, because it makes sense, and people will still purchase products and services. Microsoft Teams, for example, makes totally sense. It's a platform that allows you to connect with each other, right? So I don't think that it's a good advice to tell brands to go dark. I don't think it's a good advice.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Just while you were talking, on the right-hand side, it had an outdoor trip. Like contextually right now, I take my family in the car. We go to a place there's not a lot of people around, a bunch of social distancing, walk in the woods type of deal. And I need a car to get there, because to go on public transportation right now is one of those things that it can be extremely dangerous. So we're definitely not going to do that. Exactly. Another question I had about Teads in general was the platform itself. What percentage of your business is delivery versus content creation? And then what are you seeing? Are you seeing any growth on particular screens right now, or decline in particular screens?
Okay, so first question.
Yeah.
You can you reformulate the first part
Sure.
of the
So
question?
generally in an agency, I ran an agency like a bunch of years ago, like sold it in 2012. I would say about 80% of our at the time was like mobile development. And then we did SEO and paid advertisements was about
Yeah.
20%
Okay.
of our mix.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then so like the type of clients that you serve, the first screen that you had up on the delivery side was like, here's all the places where we can place you, which is like amazing to understand kind of where you're distributing. But how much would you say is creative creation, content creation versus strategy versus content delivery?
No, I got it now. Yeah, okay, I got it exactly your question. It's a great question. So first of all, we don't create anything. We are digital. We receive assets from clients and agencies. And because we know our environment very well, we optimize them for the mobile and the in-read. That's what our space is called, our slots, advertising slot within an article. We optimize it for our environment. And this example that is in screen actually is a perfect example. So you have a static image from their website at Walgreens that is giving a couple of services for seniors. So free shipping, drive-through, seniors only hour. Okay, so when we found this particular communication on their website, we proactively presented them this unit. So it's sorry to a better word, but it's a carousel actually, but with the cards that you can kind of a Tinder-like experience that you just engage with your finger and you go through the different benefits. So you have a
Beautiful.
You have a static image that is on the website that is not an ad. We didn't create anything here. We don't have copyright. It's not a campaign. We are just tweaking a content that is existing within our environment. But yes, I would say this is almost a corporate communication, institutional communication, and you land on an ad. Actually, you have an ad slot, an ad creative, but we don't create anything original.
Awesome. And then in terms of like screens, have you seen
Yeah.
an increase or decrease in desktop, or is it still primarily mobile increase? Like what have you seen?
Yeah, that's a trend that we can see. We track it on a regular basis. I must admit that I didn't look at that in the US for the last 4 or 8 weeks to see if there was a shift to desktop because of the work from home. That wouldn't surprise me. But on the other hand, I can tell you that in terms of time spent, frequency, mobile is constantly increasing. You know, it's the first screen. People are watching more TV now that they are at home. But the reality is that when they're watching TV, they are their eyes on their mobile device anyway. So mobile is in a constant growth. Is the first screen actually. You know, it's and that's why. I've got a job actually because I can help my clients to adapt their content for the mobile device.
That's awesome. In terms of kind of like, you talked a lot about GDPR and data at the beginning. Are you guys buying data to find affinity and interest groups, or how does that work? You talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. We have a holistic approach to data. It means that we can either incorporate first-party data from clients, so their consumer base and whatever are the platforms that they are using for their first-party data. We have our first-party data. That one of them that I described is the Teads interest graph. And of course, like any other client that use third-party data that can be credit card information or whatever are the data that are available in each countries that are totally legal. It's totally clear to use this type of data. We also are integrated to be able to explore those data. So yes, it's a conjunction, but differently from a black box, or I shouldn't say black box, but a walled garden like YouTube or Facebook. that you are, your targeting strategy is really exploring their data and it's a black box. We have a much more holistic and open approach for data.
Interesting. Yeah, that's awesome. In terms of kind of like the clients that you serve, I see a lot of like Fortune 500, Fortune 100 clients in your examples. It seems to me that if a company wanted to approach you guys and start a campaign and kind of come in, and do you guys do it on like half of your contracts? What does your business model look like? Is it agency? Is it based on delivery, CPC? Is it CPM?
Look, the business is basically a business of a global media platform. It means that the clients are shifting their investment to programmatic. A large portion of our business is via programmatic. We introduce new buying modes that are more optimized toward outcomes. Then yes, we're going to have our own buying interface that's traders who operate programmatic media. They can be trained on and they will be fully autonomous to make the buy, but they're not going to be limited only to buying CPM. So that's what I was telling you. So for now, you can basically set on mobile, for example, you can set a billable points that you are willing to you are willing to pay an impression only when a video is completed, maybe for 8 seconds. But because when you look at the content, 8 seconds, you have your goal reach, brand recall, ad recall, whatever. Maybe it's going to be 15, maybe it's going to be 12. So in terms of making sure that your investments are toward what you need to communicate, that's one thing that we do. And we also are disrupting the CPC industry, because CPC industry, we know for a fact, you guys are professionals, so you know that there's a lot of problem in the CPC industry. So basically an advertiser is willing to drive traffic on site, right? So first thing is that 50% of those clicks or 40% of those clicks, they will never land on the page. That's one of the problems that we have. There's many different reasons for that. Bounce rate, or because it wasn't clear that it was clickable, it was like a fat finger or something like that. And on the clicks that land on your page, you're going to have around, in average, 15% of those clicks that during your campaign, your flight, are recurrent users. You already bought those guys. You don't need to bring them again, and you're buying for those CPC. So what we have done, we created a product called Teads True Visits that so we pixelize the landing page of the marketer, of the advertiser, but we don't pixelize to track, to explore the data of the user that are using. We are doing the opposite. We are excluding this audience. So all the media, the paid media activity that the client has with AdWords, social media, even their organic reach during the campaign, if we send a visitor that already visits your landing page, you're not charged. You're not paying for that. You are only paying for cost per incremental visitors that have fully load your page. So what we have done from the beginning at Teads is create a platform that allow marketers to have guaranteed outcomes and disrupt a little bit the industry, because the industry sometimes we look at the metric, the run for cheap CPM is a run that is very dangerous, actually, because you end up putting your ad and your brand in an environment that is dangerous for your brand. So it's not exactly, but it is what is happening right now in the market, because the traders and the media agencies, and even clients, they look at programmatic as, oh, it's much more efficient. I want to lower my cost, my investment, instead of looking at maybe the quality of your reach and the quality of your outcomes.
Can I quickly ask a question?
Sure.
Yes.
So for you as like the global creative director, what do you think the most interesting experience you've had just like working with this company, seeing it grow? What did you take away from it, and why do you stay?
Why do I stay where?
Like, why do you stay with the company, and like, what do you like about the creative,
Okay.
like, and the creative aspect of it?
I think one of the main thing is the mission of the company. I really, from the beginning, 3 years ago, I asked Teads to hire me. It was something that I did proactively. I worked many years in agencies, traditional, digital, IPG, several different holdings, WPP, several holdings. And at some point I was decided to leave. And when I saw the value proposition of Teads, I said, I want to be hired. And to tell you the truth, I joined the company for 1/3 of my salary. That's to explain you how bad I wanted to join Teads. And I joined Teads in Brazil, and I was in charge of a Teads studio, that is this creative arm in Latin America. The mission at Teads is create a more sustainable ecosystem in terms of advertising and in digital. And a sustainable ecosystem means more transparency, means a safe environment for brands, and means also defending real journalism. I don't know your opinion, Jody, but I think when I see the president of Mexico, president of Brazil, president of the United States calling out real publishers as fake news, I still believe that the real journalism and those institutions that is calling fake news are actually companies that work for defending our democracy. So ultimately, working at Teads for me is working for the Washington Post, is working for Times, is working for Vice, is working for those publishers that I think they have an important role for the democracy. So that's why I'm not planning to leave the company soon.
Yeah, the fourth estate is super important. I always get into these philosophical arguments with one of my good friends who puts ad blockers, and I say, every time you run your ad blocker, you're stealing money from your future. You're stealing your future away, because you're declining the business model of journalism. And because when you decline the business model of journalism, they have to chase clicks. When they have to chase clicks, the quality of the journalism decreases, and you're really just stealing from your future by putting up an ad blocker.
And Brian, but it's an excellent point what you're saying, because we shouldn't be mad at the consumer, at the audience, at people that use ad blocker. What we need to be mad at is the industry. We've been running ads that are not optimized for mobile for ages, and we are still doing that. When we, can I show you another example, another creative? Because I love creative, of course. But look, I'm gonna show you this example. You have a digital out of home, right? So it's nice, but out of home doesn't make sense anymore. So this type of ad in digital, we called it a cinemagraph, let's say. We transformed it in a full microsite. So it allows you to click on the specific product, have more information. Of course, the UX could be different, and I'm not telling you that the UX should be exactly that. But I really believe that we have an opportunity right now to be more empathetic with the people who we are reaching, where we reach them, what is their context, and optimize the content. Because when you have a content that is more relevant to the audience, people will stop to use ad blocker. They will find the experience good, actually. So yeah.
Those are some great examples. I just want to say that it's about 10 minutes before the end of the show. So Jody, Brian, great questions. If anyone else has questions, feel free to ask them. We're going to let Coca finish, and then I'm going to ask some final questions to just wrap it up.
So I keep showing a couple of other examples?
Yeah. 3 or 4 more minutes, and then I just have some final questions to ask.
Yeah, of course. I'm gonna go through a couple of other examples very quick. So here it's another example. It's not out of home, but the fact is, like, running Nike running an ad in a Washington Post with this point of view, that is exactly the content that they pushed on social media. I think it's a totally different impact when the audience is looking at this ad in an environment that is, real journalism, right? So it might make sense. And you could, of course, I'm showing you a news environment, but it could be a Vice article that is in line with the type of audience that Nike usually communicate. It could be also more sport connected content. There's many different ways to leverage that. And the last type of example that I wanted to show you are the e-commerce. So here, creativity is not that critical, but it's much more to show examples that you can still communicate. There's a lot of category that makes a lot of sense, like furniture, or in this case, Peloton. It makes totally sense to communicate. Creatively, it's true that I'm not super proud visually of those examples, but they are super efficient. They drive a huge amount of visit, and it's because you are in an environment that is more trustworthy. I guess that the audience, when we see that they engage or the click-through rate is 10x the benchmark of regular display media of the industry, it's probably based on the creative, but also mainly based on the fact that you trust this publisher. You're feeling good if you click on an ad. That's a big drive for our differentiation. And here it's another example of Target that they do, of course, pickup. So there was just this video. It was a drive up campaign, but we increase the awareness from the beginning of the ad. So we really clarify what is this about. We put the video, and we also create a call to action so that you can install the app on the App Store or Google Play. So those are the type of things that we do. And just to finish the presentation, I just want to share with all of you the type of things that we do at Teads Studio. So we've been in touch with a lot of marketers that share with us the script, actually, the storyboards of what they are planning to shoot. And we share with them advice and stuff that might, for example, when you make this investment, this production cost, making sure that you are not leaving opportunities of creating content that could work amazingly in mobile. We also have a hackathon. It's a quick collaborative session, 3 hours, that we spend with clients, agency, media specialists, content specialists, and all together we work on a campaign and we optimize their creative assets, and we also work on the orchestration of the campaign. So it's super amazing because you can see the work that usually would take like 3 weeks or a month or maybe 2 months happening in 3 hours. And then we have, of course, our main core business that is basically creating optimization of content for our environment. So this is basically what I wanted to share in terms of presentation today.
Awesome.
And I'm open for question, of course.
I think we're going to wrap it up. I saw some questions they were asked. Coca, great presentation on how quickly businesses are changing in the assets they're creating to become this new market. Also on Teads Studio, and I loved all of your examples on how it's not all just videos, it's things that you can interact with so that sitting at home you can buy stuff in this new world. I just have some final questions. So with 20 years of experience in media and creative, you probably have learned a lot along the way. What resources do you continuously go back and look at so that with a wave like this, you can stay up to date on knowing what trends are changing and incorporate them before anyone else does?
I think the best answer is not having sources, like is being relentlessly, I don't know if it's the right word in English, but curious. I think advertising is drinking and getting inspired by art, by stuff that happen in the periphery and stuff that are not coming from, the rich neighborhood that we are living in. So being curious, being brave, and being in touch with the reality is the most important thing in advertising. That would be my main. I see that, I don't know if you're going to agree with me, but in Brazil, at least, because I lived so many years, each time that I walk in the streets, I could identify people that work in advertising by their style, by their behavior. That's
Be-
wrong. That's wrong. It means that we are living in a bubble. We are all like growing birds, and we use, I don't know, like those same t-shirts with print stuff, and it's an hegemony of thinking, right? And I think it's wrong. Innovative thinking never happen where there's a concentration of power and wealth. Never. Google didn't invent YouTube. They bought it. Facebook didn't invent Instagram. They bought it.
I
And
totally
they tried
agree.
to buy Snapchat, and they couldn't, and they launched stories within Instagram. So the real innovation is not coming from those big, powerful companies. It's coming from normal people. And I think that what we are living right now with COVID-19, I think there's probably we have an opportunity to understand that the world is not top down anymore. It's not about
Right.
that.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
opportunity for people at home to be creative themselves while all
Yeah.
of them are out there learning new skills. They might see something that nobody else does. Where can people?
And brands to embrace them instead of them having to rely only on user-generated content platform where they publish their content that is amazing, but the problem is close to another content that is designed to attract pedophile. That's the problem also. I love user-generated content. I love platforms, but they're like, it's kind of a land without any law, you know, it's dangerous. Like today, for example, I heard my kids asking me, yeah, I want to go on YouTube and we have YouTube Kids on our iPad. But she asking, oh, I want to see the channel where I learn how to draw. I don't feel comfortable. I want to supervise her. She's a 7-year-old. If she's on YouTube, at any second, I will look over her shoulder. That's not possible to leave her without this supervision. That's the reality that we are living in.
So there's opportunity there as well. There's lots of these opportunities springing up from being at home.
Yeah.
These were a lot of great examples. If people want to see more of these, they want to contact you, reach out, ask you more questions, where's the best place to get in touch with you online?
So I would say, look, I'm going to do something that I could have done. Let me just open something that's going to be easier for everyone that is watching. So I didn't even comment on that, but I'm a huge user of a QR code. You might have seen that a couple of creative, I had a QR code that you can scan with your camera and you can see the creative on your mobile screen. But I also do that when I do presentation in events or clients. I use this type of a QR code at the end of my presentation. So here's my email. So if everyone wants to reach me, coca@teads.com. And this QR code, if you point your camera to the QR code, it allows you to be redirected to my LinkedIn profile and basically add me as a connection. And I'm super active on LinkedIn. I share always stuff on the platform, maybe too much, but I can be easily reached via LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. People will scan this on the live stream. They'll reach out to you on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for presenting today. This was another episode of Masters of Marketing, and I'm going to end it right now.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Stay
Bye,
safe.
You too.